Hi, welcome to our podcast. Today we've got Derek McKercher. Derek's been here before, but he's just flew in from Perth all the way for the Tesla launch. It was an exciting night last night. We'll talk about that a little bit and a few more things, what's going on in the industry. Welcome to our podcast, Derek.
Thank you for having me, Marcus.
Well, it's the second time here, so there'll be no more nerves, etc., etc. And what's the market at the moment like? Because we got record install numbers, but really some installers saying it is getting quieter. So what's the market in Perth?
Look, I think the market is, it's always a little bit tricky around about this time of year, which is the middle of the year. But
is that because people can't see the sun and they don't think of solar?
I think so. I think they have a little bit of an affinity with the sunshine and solar panels. But it's a great time to buy solar. If anything, it's usually the most competitive time of the year, right, compared to the end of the year. But, you know, everyone in sales will tell you it's a great time to buy anything. But it really is a really good time because most people, it does drop off a little bit. So it does get a little bit more competitive. You've also got great panel prices at the moment and where manufacturers are selling them below cost. So it's created a really desirable outcome for solar.
So the actual price for solar right at the moment is probably one of its lowest, and the efficiency of the panel is one of the highest. So
100%. Well, you would assume they could only go up because if manufacturers can't keep selling for below cost, and I think it's because there's an oversupply off the kickback from a surge in demand from Europe. 2 years ago, and it's that stock will be depleted soon.
Right. I mean, it's in the country, it's costs warehouse space, and people just want to get it out.
Exactly.
Got it. But Perth has always been one of the most competitive places in the world. And when I look at the prices at Perth, I don't know if people are willing to work for half the amount, or how the hell do you get so cheap solar prices up in Perth?
Potentially because a lot of contractors might have been burned from bigger companies that rates would be going down, install rates, subcontract install rates. And so this potentially leads to a whole bigger picture of the market fragmentation that's out there, because it even got for me to a point where it became unsustainable to even work as a subcontractor to a larger organisation. That's how I started. And you always have a threshold or a point that you can sustain, and then it's good to be important, or it's be honest with yourself where you are in business and what you require out of it, because you have to make a decision at one point whether you're going to keep subcontracting or go and install for yourself. And I think a lot of people have done that, where companies might not have paid them, or the rate keeps dropping too low. And so you've got more and more competition in the local market. And if you don't have an accurate marketing strategy, then the only way that they're able to sell is by a lower price.
Right. So you're saying that basically maybe if the market goes down a bit slower, then suddenly the subcontractors will be paid a bit less because it's actually more desirable and harder to get the jobs. At one stage, then the subcontractors go, this is just not worth it anymore. So they go into their own business because solar has a relatively low threshold. And then that means there's more play in the market, which is putting further downward pressure onto the industry, because solar's working on 10-15% margin, which is unheard of in many other industries.
Correct.
I don't know a plumber who does 10% margin.
I think if you've worked that for an enduring period to achieve a qualification, then you should value it at a higher price.
Very strange in this industry. But look, let's talk about the key point from really that got me excited last night. We were at the Tesla launch. And, you know, we've been to many launches before. I mean, people sometimes, they repackage something. It's got a different color, but substantially it's the same product. What did you think of the Tesla launch?
Tesla have a way of doing things exceptionally. They do things exceptionally well. And the launch and the installer event, they all raise up another level. But what we need to focus on is the product itself and what it can deliver the homeowner. I think it had been a long time since Powerwall 2 was released, so I think that was 7 years ago, and there was a lot of anticipation around a new product or a Powerwall 3. It has been for the last 3 or 4 years. People have been anticipating when it's going to come out. And then we saw last year that it was released on the US market, but more with US specifications, which we knew that potentially weren't going to be compatible with local DNSPs. So seeing another, I guess, finally having the Australian specifications released is also exciting because we know how we're instantly, when you come from an installer perspective, you start thinking of all the different scenarios that you can incorporate it in and how it can benefit people. Standout feature, 20 kilowatt solar PV array input, loved it.
I mean, the Tesla Powerwall 2, even so it was 7 years old, it wasn't kind of out of date. It still had good sales numbers. It was still reliable. It still looked sleek. So it's kind of interesting that actually a product lasted in this industry that long because, I mean, the solar panel, a new model comes out every 3 months. Batteries usually maybe 3 years. So for a product to actually have 7-year lasting time is a good record.
Well, it's a testament to great design. They've produced a remarkable product, and you'll see within the Powerwall 3, they haven't even changed the energy density. It's the same 13.5 kilowatt hours. And I think, again, going back to the testament of design, is they really looked at what the average homeowner needs in order to get through those peak periods that might have a high energy tariff or to really get your house
night consumption.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Now look, it was interesting. I was right at the front. I don't know how many people were there, 500-600, and I kind of, with the camera guy, we kind of parted the way and got right to the front. And so it gave me a chance to look back, And so initially the guys were standing there and kind of go, come on, guys, impress me. And over time, I felt like there was a bit of foaming coming out of everybody's mouth because the advantages just kept on rappelling up. It was like an onion being peeled up, and everybody was waiting for the diamond ring right in the middle. But there were so many positives about that Powerwall in terms of just thinking forward, thinking about the market and all that. And look, I'm waiting for Tesla to actually sponsor this bloody show because I'm going to say a lot of nice things about it. But, I can see a good product, I mean, look, I'd love to be at one day half the price it is now, which I don't know how realistic that is, but there were lots of positive things. So you're saying 20 kilowatt input, that allows you literally, when you go to residential homes, what's the size that you nowadays sell?
It's usually 6.6 kilowatts.
Starting there and up to what?
Up to 10 to 13 kilowatts.
Right. So the 20 kilowatt, that would really cover most installs and most things that you sell because you go from 6.6 to maybe 10, 12, whatever. I know there's a shortage in the 3-phase option at the moment, but overall, it's really very elastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great solution for a lot of people, and they've simplified it as well. So you've got less hardware in order to achieve more. And really, when we've got more componentry or hardware, there's more points of failure throughout there. An entire system. It doesn't matter what you're looking at.
So for the end customer, it means basically you can choose whatever system size you want, and the Tesla Powerwall will be compatible, and the inverter that is in there will work for you, with you, whatever. So that's great. In terms of design, with the 3 MPPs, that gives you a flexibility. I know there are now modern inverters coming out in the competition space which also have 3, and some in the hybrid even coming with 4. But there's still some out that only have 2 MPPs. And for the normal people who might listen, it basically means the design of the solar allows you more flexibility because the panels are in a string, and you now can theoretically put it on 3 different roofs and all feed it in. And I believe the minimum number of panels is 2.
I didn't know that.
No, they said that during the speech, it was the minimum voltage to get the string going is 2 panels. I mean,
That's
I remember
remarkable.
in the olden days it was
a
like
very low voltage window.
Yeah,
like,
it's kind of, again, very elastic. I don't know what they've done on the inside, but a bit of special sauce there. And then in Australia, the one thing with solar and batteries is always people think I want to have battery, put it next to my house. And I bet you've been in that position. You walk around and you go, well, that's the north side. It's a perfect spot, but no, I can't put it on there. It's going to fry to death. And then, well, this is right next to the window, and now this is right next to the inverter, and I need a minimum. And you kind of find actually sometimes pretty hard to get the right spot for a battery. But now with that temperature window of minus 20 to 50 degrees, I mean, that makes life a bit easier for Australia too, doesn't it?
It does. But like anything, you will want to avoid putting it in direct sunlight where possible. But beyond that, it's definitely got some of the most durable specifications as well. Whereas they've got it in a fish tank to display how it can handle floods and
yesterday
and
we saw one actually in it was a fish tank or some kind of water immersed thing, and I think they basically said, if you get a flood and a little bit of water gets through the bottom of it, we're not worried about it because it's fully sealed aluminium case. That was the story.
Remarkable.
Wasn't it?
And I think they've really thought about the safety of it compared to any points that, or even natural disasters that could occur, that they're very aware that this is a part of the home now, and it needs to be thought about as something that can withstand a diverse amount of global type of scenarios.
The chances for it to die straight away is reduced because they made it more robust.
And they did confirm LFP batteries as well, which will make a lot of people happy.
So look, just a quick one about that. Can you explain that? Because people are all kind of a little bit confused about the various lithium versions and combinations and all that. So, there's one that's possibly a little bit more dangerous than other mixes. Can you explain that?
That in the Powerwall 2 were the nickel, manganese, cobalt lithium cells.
Yeah.
So, or what's referred to as NMC, but they also had a liquid cooling system in there to assist with mitigating the effects of thermal runaway. Now that was the biggest argument between NMC and LFP lithium batteries, is that the LFP has a greater thermal runaway to make them a little bit safer. But in saying that, I never saw a problem with the other ones. But anyway, for anyone doing their research, they're going to be a lot more comfortable buying LFP if a lot of the media sentiment is more positive around LFP batteries.
So, in a long and short way, instead of mentioning all those little acronyms that normal people would just go, it's basically they have chosen a chemistry for that particular battery that makes the battery much more safe. As well, they still do have a cooling mechanism within it, don't they? And I think the aluminium case is like a heat sink type thing.
That's right.
So from a design point of view, it should also be a very safe battery.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So look, that was impressive. Then
the one going, I don't know whether it's got any relevance, but there's no cobalt in it. So there's no kids in Africa.
that going. Well, I don't think. I'm sorry, I have to correct you here. That's not a laughing matter. No, there are.
It's one thing I get asked all the time. Right. Is that isn't there kids in Africa that are mining this stuff? So it's not a very sustainable battery. And well, if you remove the cobalt aspect of it, which LFP does,
you made all those kids unemployed.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not funny. No, but basically what we're saying from a sustainability point of view, you're trying to avoid a ingredient where there are potentially question marks over the sustainability and the way that it is actually mined. So I suppose Tesla has looked at that and said, look, if we can avoid it, let's get out of it. That way the question is asked. And are you generally being asked by people about that?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
So now your answer is it's not in there, so we are actually not contributing to that.
And I think that's where a level of the education comes into it, is that people need to know that there is a difference between the two lithium battery chemistries.
Now, when it comes to the environmental aspects, I mean, this is really where I get the crankies a bit sometimes, because solar is, it's all spooked for the environment and all that. But then when you look at the waste stream down the track and the packaging and even solar panel recycling, the ideal world has not been achieved yet. And so for Tesla actually to take that serious, and so what they've done is I think the old Teslas came always in some kind of wooden crate, and people then had to really either, use them for kindle wood on their cold winters in their stove or whatever, but there was actually a waste angle coming through. And I understand the new packaging is now a foam, plastic kind of shell that they actually let you take back and it can be reused.
Correct. It's exactly for that purpose. It's better to reuse than recycle. So the whole packaging system even has positions to be forked, and they're durable plastic cases, and it's probably an aspect of the Powerwall 3 that will get less media coverage, but deserves far more. They're really thinking about the entire supply chain and minimising their impact on the earth. But yeah, there will be some elements that will, obviously it's got to be transported back, but it should be better off than
just wasting
it.
And you get your $150, I think, per unit. So
that's a nice reward.
So maybe these poor solar companies find at night somebody's coming and pinching on it. I got somebody going through my recycling bin every time it's out there and getting the little bottles out to make a few bucks. But that's only 20 cents. 150 is a better deal.
Yeah, maybe we were not spruiked that, hey?
But I also hear that how many Powerwalls were you able to stack before in the warehouse? I think it was only about 6 or so, because there's a point where they're getting too heavy for the boxes. But the new ones I picked up last night, you can stack up to 9. So according to them, that gives you about a 33% higher utilization of your warehouse.
Wow. Look, and that's an aspect I didn't see. But we would only limit it to the 3 stacking high, which kind of fit in a bay where solar panels would fit in as well.
Right, yeah, because you got the stackers. But some people, they actually do have them in the open, and according to Tesla now, the ability to stack safely is more with the new design than it was before.
Well, that's remarkable.
Yeah. Now, did you see the little funny trolley that they had there?
Yes, the dolly.
Yeah, the dolly trolley. Tell me a bit about what's the whole thing about that, and why do we need one, and what's the benefit? And they were getting very excited about that.
Well, they're trying to get the installation down to one person, or with the potential to be installed by one person. And there's a drill mechanism that you can attach a drill, and it automates the lifting up and down of virtually 130 kilogram battery.
Right. So one guy can do 130 kilowatt. Is it?
Yeah.
With the help of that lift. Because that was the thing before. I mean, big, heavy batteries, be it all sorts of brands. I mean, I've seen photos, they're dragging them like a dead donkey, from the hunt.
That was the appeal of modular batteries, so they could stack them one by one, and it wouldn't affect the worker as much, but there's still a significant weight involved. And as far as Tesla's trolley goes, it really just removes all that burden on manhandling.
On your back and all of those things. So they've basically now, I assume there's a cost to those, but you basically can, if you're a single person, take it easy, and it's not an unusual installation spot, you're like 15 stairs up, this and that, then you would actually be able to potentially do it by yourself. Is that what they claimed, or what you think is possible?
Well, look, they demonstrated at the installer day last year, and it works brilliantly. We will be buying them, and even we won't be putting one man on a job. We'll still have 2 men on there, but just to minimise the impact on strain within the body.
Right. So look, let's kind of have a look at the summary. So we've got 20 kilowatt solar can go input. It's got very good temperature range to be installed in many positions, including even the flood protection kind of thing. It's still looking quite sexy. The installation has been eased. The environmental footprint is better in the way of the waste and the packaging. Look, it came with more benefits because, for example, the output, when let's say you get into a blackout, and with some of the batteries, you got your aircon going and your radio and your TV and your kids are playing PlayStation, and then there's a blackout and your battery's supposed to kick in and support you, but then the output of the battery wasn't matching what you were consuming at that point in time in the house. But I hear that the Tesla's really saying 10 kilowatt, no problem. Yeah. So the output, and what was the previous one, the Tesla Powerwall 2? How much did you get?
5.
So basically you can have 13.5 in there, but only a certain amount you can get out at a given time, and So imagine it's like a hose. You only got this much to get out. But now they literally doubled.
Yeah, for the 10 kilowatt models, you'll be able to do that. So we've still with the.
You're in Perth. You got your restrictions there.
Yeah,
again.
we're still 5.
Western Australia. I know you got your own grid. But Jesus Christ, these engineers, they're very restrictive. I mean, make your life a bit harder too, don't they?
Well, we would love to see 10 kilowatt single phase. I think there are a lot of customers that would love to see it. So I think at least having 20 kilowatt PV input will assist in some way.
Yeah. So in Perth, really, we can kind of throw the advantage of the Tesla Powerwall in front of you, make you smell it, but you can never get it.
It kind of makes the Powerwall too, if you can still get it, quite desirable because there's a cost saving on the Powerwall 2 versus the Powerwall 3 as we predicted.
True. But I mean, the Powerwall 3, on the other hand, going forward, I think next year, if let's say you put your Powerwall 3 in with a new system, off you go, you're very happy with it, but now you're buying EV and suddenly there's quite a bit you export and you're not getting much money for the export and you think, oh, I actually want another 13.5 kilowatt of battery. You can actually buy an extended version which doesn't have the inverter in it, therefore it's cheaper, and just plug it literally in.
That's the idea. It's not released to market yet, but
hang on. Whenever Elon Musk says something happens, it does happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes a tiny bit longer, but it does happen. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get it.
The expansion units, yeah. It should make the adoption for greater energy density more accessible. If anything, they've already done it. Going back to what you mentioned earlier on about seeing it reduce in price by almost half, it's already one of the most affordable batteries on the market in terms of cost per kilowatt hour. And that's what most people need is greater energy density and superior value in costs of energy storage. And Tesla does that. When you compare it to other batteries on the market, it's more than just a battery. It's
a one-in-all solution. Is that the word you're looking for?
When I write, I can write and it just comes out, but I do it at a different
I think
pace.
You're just too excited about that bloody battery. There's drips coming. Oh, battery, Tesla. Oh, God.
No, but it is a
I saw you hug it.
It's a solution rather than a battery. So it's the advanced software that is incorporated is there to aid user experience. And when you have a better user experience out of a product, you're more likely to use it and recommend it.
Right. So actually what you're really saying is because you're going to throw a couple at customers at a really tight price, ones who talk all in their neighbourhood, you expect then more sales around the same street, isn't it?
I think if you make any superior product, people should talk about it. And that's effectively what Tesla do.
Now, in terms of the whole simplicity, because, I mean, it's also going to save money in the installation, isn't it? I mean, you said they're very cost competitive, but if it's simpler, then you can go in and out faster, which then should actually help you with the costing for your staff. Because theoretically, I mean, I don't know how complicated the gateway installation and the cabling is and all that, but I mean, theoretically, you should be able to get your staff to be able to do it faster than the Powerwall 2.
Look, that's the idea. They're always looking at ways to improve the implementation of infrastructure. So it could be their EV chargers or their batteries. But I think that's if you can get installers on side, then they're also more likely to recommend the product. And how do you do that? You make the installation seamless.
And easier for them. I mean, you know, the commissioning and all that kind of stuff, you know, in the back of, I mean, Australia, you're sometimes really in the back of whoop. And then if the commissioning is a problem and you drove 4 hours to get to that spot, and then whoever is in the support service doesn't answer the call or you can't find the right video on the internet, at that point in time, that brand does leave a bit of a dusty feeling in your mouth, isn't it?
This is a part of the problem with a lot of batteries that require an internet connection, and the modern batteries need it now. So, yeah, they're consistently improving the commissioning of Powerwall 3 or Powerwall in general, the Powerwall scope of that
The whole
Powerwall
Powerwall
fleet.
range, yes.
But so it's still using the same gateway as Powerwall 2, which was really the brains of the Powerwall. So
Is that little box that comes out? Now, I had a very early Tesla, and I must say I didn't know about the gateway. And then suddenly they put this relatively ugly thing right in front of my walk-in area near my switchboard. And we're able to kind of hide it a little bit and this and that. But I think they made the gateway look a bit sexier too, did they?
yeah, so they've basically made it look like a mini Powerwall now with a glass front plate, Tesla across the front. That it doesn't feature a lot in the marketing videos, but it's a control box that will facilitate your blackout protection and
it's basically the brains, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's still needed.
Still
It's
needed.
not physically in the new unit, is it, in the Powerwall 3?
No. There's they have reduced the overall dimensions, height and width. Depth is a little bit deeper, and it seems quite tightly packed in with 130 kilograms. So you've still
Hang on. It's not 130 kilograms for the control box.
No. But there is. It also needs a level of flexibility. So the control box needs to go usually closer to the switchboard because it's there to facilitate home backup power. And so having it disconnected is rather important.
Meaning if the battery is sitting at the back of the house and your switchboard's in the front, you really want the control box closer to the house front to the switchboard because that's where the communication is going to take place.
Correct. The communications and the load control.
Yeah, okay. Now, look, we have been gushing quite a bit about Tesla and I mean, as I said, I wrote down all the advantages and I ended up at 23. And I mean, there's quite a lot of things we haven't talked about yet. There's the starting amp was I think 48 or something like that. I mean, you basically if you got to running your aircon and it goes blackout, not just from the kilowatt that you're consuming, but also the amps themselves, it can actually handle a much bigger range than many other competitors. So you're not going to be let down there. So as I said, we was very positive about that, and I think the installer community walked away pretty impressed because it makes their life easier. But I've always found a negative in things, trust me. And in our industry right now, we have a lot of very cheap solar companies who advertise on a very low price point of $299 for something that's a rather big system. And unfortunately, there's also big, long warranties attached to it, therefore the trust element. Then there are sometimes very fake reviews of thousands added to it, onto that. So as an unsuspecting new customer, I go into the solar space and I feel this is a great deal. And those companies in the past haven't touched batteries very much because the sophistication of their installers is sometimes not the best. The installation itself is definitely not the best. My brother-in-law just had one and then complained to me about his $7,000 fix-up on the roof afterwards, and the company never to be found. But those people are really slowly taking over part of the industry instead of the local companies that are actually doing a good job and therefore long-term support. And as we know with the big players like True Value Solar or Eurosolar, which followed that model, they then switch their doors off after 3 to 4 years. And then the customers who thought they had their 25-year warranty can never find anybody fixing it. So this is the reality of cheap solar. But with the Tesla Powerwall making it so easy, and in the past, to come back to it, they didn't really have all the complexities in the knowledge of the installers to handle batteries. So batteries haven't been pushed hard by those particular companies because that's where you really need to know your stuff. But you make that Tesla so easy, they can now take that brand advantage and the high level of what the Tesla brand is a value and add it to their bundle, and even Blind Freddy can install the damn thing. So aren't you kind of helping really shit solar to survive better?
Well, the good news in that is that Tesla have another layer of review. So they've got an internal auditing team that companies that will get preference through Tesla will be companies that submit their projects to internal audit. And then as a Tesla Premium certified installer, we've submitted a large degree of projects where possible. Almost every single one, if we've got an active internet connection, will get sent through for audit. And then if there are any rectifications required, then it's another layer of just making sure that the installation is following Tesla protocol.
Okay, but what stops them to do the solar crap and then do the battery quite well, and then in their price point basically kill anybody else who has the normal overheads, because those companies don't plan to go bust in a couple of years and run. And so then as a bundle, they still can kill the whole damn industry. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I've been thinking through and say, it's a great product, but it's making it so easy that idiots now will be able to.
Well, they will still need to be a certified installer. That's the first thing they need to get. So they will need to go through, do the Tesla online courses. Alongside, they'll need to have obviously their
Well, you just employ one bright spark to be able to do that. So my point is it gets the capacity going. I mean, I think it points to the really fundamental problem we got in Australia, which is that the entry barrier to solar is relatively low. I mean, some of those marketing companies, what they do now, you go on Facebook and you see 20 different companies, but if you look into it, they're all owned by the same lot. So, you've got 5 ladies sitting there, or ladies and gentlemen sitting in a call center, and they get quote one call, and then the same person thinks they'll ring a second company, and it all ends up in the same funnel. And so that's really where I feel it's got nothing to do with Tesla in that sense, but I feel that it'll be very interesting to see if they're not going to embrace that particular brand to really lift their own standing in the industry.
Well, they wouldn't want to do anything that would bring their brand into disrepute.
What, Tesla? Oh, no. They're going to be very strong on protecting it. It's just me kind of putting the nightmare scenario out there, and I'm sorry, but we'll see how it all goes. But I really do believe that the auditing of the cheap stuff just has to be done more strongly. And people, if they believe they can get a good deal for a 299 system, and believe somebody's sitting on a phone for 25 years waiting for their warranty call, you're kidding yourself. It's not going to happen. And the other argument is, the technology changes after 10 years. I'm going to chuck it out anyway. And you're getting money from the government, a rebate for the environmental benefits. Throwing a solar system in the tip in 5 years or 6 or 7 is not what was part of the plan when they put the rebate out.
True.
So those are the things that get me a bit cranky. Anyway, I shouldn't look like a baby boomer too much and get too cranky too often. But look, would you say that it was one of the best launches you've ever been to?
Yeah, they've definitely set a new standard and raised the bar, and I think it's got a lot of people looking, and rightly so. It's there to grab attention. The show certainly did.
I mean, you flew all the way from Perth, 3,000 Ks.
Absolutely.
So, and I mean, I saw people I hadn't seen they never turn up at All Energy anymore because they've been there 20 times, but they definitely were at the Tesla launch.
Well, you can get really good value out of an event like that. And as we saw some very recognisable faces from the industry across Australia, and everyone was, from what I gauged, was very positive about the product, and like yourself, couldn't find very many negatives.
No, I don't think it. Yeah. Look, I interviewed people afterwards, and there was a whole range of what they liked about the product, and it was actually varied. Depending on their own installation and sales angle, there was really a beautiful, juicy positive that each installer that I interviewed could grab and sell the product. So from that perspective, I remember years ago I worked for Energy Matters, and iPhone came out, and the owner drove personally down to us, and all the staff got their first iPhone. And I remember you put the data in, and you could run it through, like it was kind of going up and down a bit like the pokies go through up and down. And I was so amazed about it. I kept on playing with it all the time. And I remember I didn't realize how special that day was of getting your first iPhone, because it's changed the whole industry. There was a torch in it, and there's a stopwatch in it, and all those little knickknacks that you had to buy were all compass. I mean, it was all in there in the one phone, and you didn't even realize how much of a game changer it was at the time. And I had a feeling a bit like the simplicity today, the right size, the flexibility of where you can install it. I mean, it maybe was that kind of iPhone launch moment, and when maybe you don't even realize the significance. Because if, for example, the Australian government would put in a federal solar rebate for batteries, and that would be maybe, let's say, a $4,000 to $5,000 support. I mean, keep in mind that the Howard government gave $8,000 initially to solar. Now, imagine you would even get a rebate like that on the Tesla Powerwall.
Phenomenal.
You know, I think we'd be absorbing half the damn output of Nevada.
Do you think there will be a national or a federal
Absolutely.
rebate?
There will be a federal government solar rebate, and it has to be, and I have it on first experience. Not many people have a wife in the federal parliament. There are discussions within the leading party at the moment with two party elements opposed to each other. One wants the solar rebate for batteries out before the federal election to create an advantage. The other side feels it's a lot of hard work and it could end up in a bit of a pink bat danger with the opposition picking up on it. But the reason why we will get under any government a federal rebate for batteries is that our grid will be up the creek without it. Because if people still continue to do only solar and not actually take the responsibility of a battery, which makes their solar more embedded into the network, and with all the complexities of the EVs coming, as well as the solar farm, infrastructure requirements that are still there that will add extra cost pressures on our electricity prices, the only card and trump you've got to get out of this whole mess is actually home batteries.
But would they try and not push that onto the state government so it's not their responsibility?
The problem is you leave it with state governments, you get a hedge-match patch of solutions, and you're not getting the benefit of the vote. And if there's a horse called self-interest in politics, I always put money on it.
That's a nice summary.
And even if it's just an announcement before the federal election and then the implementation becomes very different, I'm pretty sure we're going to hear something in that space very shortly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's just my hearing on the grapevine stuff.
And when's the next election?
There are discussions. It could be between September to May 25. September now to May 25, the next election.
Wow.
So I believe there are already discussions going on.
Okay.
So, yeah. But look, one other thing now. I mean, you've recently traveled to China. And I have actually never been to China. I've been to Vietnam about 12 times due to family connections, but I've never been to China. And you've been to China to the checking out factories, all that. Tell us a bit about that.
China is a remarkable place, especially Shanghai, which I visit. The factories are next level. They're rows of automation after rows of automation, and it's really an energy in and some sort of product output. They've got such a great quality control, especially in solar now, with such warranties up to 25 years or greater, that they need accurate implementation to make sure that these things can sustain the life that they're
So who
intended
did you? I
for.
mean, we can mention some brands.
Okay. I went and visited Jinko. Jinko, remarkable solar panel manufacturer that a lot of people know of, are always pushing the limits on innovation now. Once just an ordinary solar module manufacturer proves that you can go through and do extraordinary things. We trust them. A lot of customers trust them on their roofs in Australia. I think the Jinko Neo 440 watt panel, which has over 2 million panels that have come and made it to Australia, and a high degree of customer satisfaction.
So did you see any inverter manufacturers as well, or you mainly went to panels?
No. I got to see an emerging inverter and battery manufacturer in SIG Energy. SIG Energy is a new player to the industry, but they come off the back of remarkable design. So Tony Zhu, who is ex-Huawei, has basically a background in software engineering and artificial intelligence, has seen a way forward with an alternative battery concept that also integrates the likes of bidirectional EV charging. So you can have it's almost like a new energy ecosystem of all-in-one energy ecosystem that incorporates your solar input, your battery, and your EV charger all in the one unit.
Right.
And it has the added advantage of bidirectional function, which means you can power your home from your car. So
Right. Saying about, I'm going back to the Tesla there now. So look, I looked at some of the American videos, and there were discussions that basically your Tesla battery, in the case of a blackout, can then actually talk to the car and then actually get extra power back into your battery, which then would go in the house through, let's say, a Tesla car. So that whole infrastructure becomes all together. Now, I know in Australia we have certain regulatory frameworks which makes actually the attachment of other pieces to your car still a little bit harder than other places. But would you say that, and so this is currently still pie in the sky, but that whole integration of the car with the battery, backing up your house, and then the solar maybe filling it during the day and coming back all the other way, is this really where we are going to go?
100%. It will happen. A lot of people will adopt, or your car is a big battery on wheels, and it's even got a greater cost per kilowatt hour advantage in terms of value. And what you can do is the way that we fuel our cars and our livelihood in terms of energy use. It doesn't matter what sort of energy it is. It could be gas, petrochemical, or electrons. We all have an energy dependency, but we're just going to shift in one way where we used, let's say, for fueling a car, it was a lot of intermediate refueling of your petrol car. But with electric vehicles, I think I've seen a few graphs out there that suggest that around 80% of your refueling purposes is going to be done at destination points. And if they could have done that with fuel, they would have. You'd have a petrol station at your home where you drive, but it's too complex. But it's not that complex when you have an electrified model.
So kind of in a long and windy way, what you've just talked about, do I get it that you're basically saying battery, home, car, going to be all connected up, that you're going to also look for more opportunities to charge the car outside in businesses. So that whole battery, solar will also happen in businesses if they have the roof space, like warehouses and so on and so forth. But why isn't it already in place? If we know that that's the future, why can't I buy an EV right now and then just plug in the back of my house and now it supplies my house power for a while?
There were a lot of limitations issued by the vehicle manufacturers as well, so not all cars can do that. It is an advanced function, and there's a lot of things to work out from their level to make sure that you've got different players with different warranties and things. So
so you don't drain the battery out of the car for ever and ever and ever, and then after 2 years your EV is stuffed and you want to have a warranty. Is that those?
I think
issues?
I think that's the sort of thing. I think but more are coming to market, and whether they factor in some form of security in the end user agreements, I'm not too sure. But they're finally starting to come online, where we're starting to see our first bidirectional EV chargers come to market. Where Nissan Leaf, I think a couple of the Kias have bidirectional capabilities, and so these are the first brands to do it.
But realistically, let's put this into a real world scenario. You drive into your garage, you plug the thing in, then you get a blackout. Your kids still want to play a PlayStation. Your wife's still doing her hair, and then she decides to bake a cake and keep on going. And then you want to leave in the morning and your EV is empty.
Well, you could program it so it only discharges to a certain point. So,
So suddenly the hairdryer will go, and the car goes, that's it.
well, there's a limit to everything, Marcus. And don't overconsume when there's a blackout.
Well, I don't overconsume hairdryers.
No, you don't.
You see, when I give my guests the opportunity to drive their foot right into my bum, I give them the opportunity. I don't expect them to use it. You failed that test.
Sorry, I was distracted by the light that was hitting me in the eye from the top of you.
You keep on going. Not appreciated.
I'll touch your ball to make it.
You're going still down the wrong path. They warn me about people from Perth, you know?
Yeah, I know.
They say you're different.
We are. It's wait a while. It's also wait a while in intelligence as well.
At least
so we lack some certain levels of social intelligence when it comes to scenarios, and Sydney-siders are going to get affected.
No, I think I have this theory what happens to Perth people and Western Australia people as a whole. Because you guys got so many flies, you actually keep your mouth shut most of the time when you're over there. And then when you're finally over here, you kind of go, and it all comes out.
You figured us out, Marcus.
No, seriously, when I was back in Germany and I decided to migrate to Australia, I met a guy from Perth and I couldn't understand English, but I'm going, mate, what are you talking so weird English? And he goes, we keep our mouth shut because of the flies. I think he was very country. Anyway, somebody's going to complain about this now. But coming back to China, I mean, there is a bit of tension. I mean, there's America, sitting on their bums, shooting each other with the guns, having people in charge where you really feel they should be in the old people's home, and then they would still want us to be, admiring them for being the leader of the Western world. I mean, I go, guys, you're a bit of a joke, I'm seriously. I mean, we're supposed to be aspiring to the freedom of the democracy that is occurring there, and you look at the gun rules and all stuff like that, and you go, I can't admire that. And so China is coming along now, and there's always challenges in supremacy of who's the biggest country in the world going back to Roman times. So there is definitely this kind of challenge now of America's supremacy in the technology space. And even Tesla's, I think those Powerwalls from time to time, maybe not the Powerwalls, but other parts of Tesla are made in China. The iPhone's made in China.
Well, they've got a gigafactory there.
Yeah. I mean, the one from last night, I think, are coming out of Nevada.
Yes.
But in general, so my point is they're starting to make good gear. And I fear for the German car industry when I see what's coming out of China right now. So my question to you is, how is that whole conflict that kind of comes in our media quite regularly, how is that perceived when you as a Westerner come to China? Do they kind of start – did you need any changes in the last 2 or 3 years from the times you went before?
Look, China, I feel, is a beautifully free place to go around and to enjoy. I don't feel any sort of restrictions. There is biometric readings that you get, but you get that in every country. Let's be honest. Biometric readings is just like your fingerprints when you go in.
I don't like that.
You don't?
No, I don't like biometrics. I don't like somebody putting a bug into my phone and they know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't like that part. I mean, why? That is kind of a bit of a Big Brother state, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's everywhere now.
No, but hang on. Just because, let's say you live in an industrial city and it really stinks, and Birmingham, whatever, 1900, just because I can get cancer breath everywhere, it doesn't make it right,
Yeah. It's hard to get away from it, because whether you kind of consent to it even when you unlock your phone. It's reading biometrics.
But I mean, shouldn't really be our politicians be out there, at least in the countries of freedom, to actually stop that a little bit, even from a social media point of view? I mean, I'm pretty sure my phone's listening to me because I can say the word funeral, got to go to grandma's funeral. 20 minutes later, I'm getting coffin ads. What happened there?
I know. I just work within the boundaries that are set, and I don't necessarily argue against them. I should though, shouldn't I?
I think I'm from Germany. That was some excuses of people who didn't do anything about the Nazis. Oh, I was just watering the grass. I didn't know why they were marching next to me. So anyway, so it's a permanent, perfectly free country other than the biometrics. Let's get on with it.
But what they do have is that they can transform. They've got a very innovative culture now where they can shift quite quickly. So you're looking at about 40 to 50% electric vehicle penetration, not one car on fire on the side of the street, just so you're aware of a city of 20 million people or more. I don't know what.
You mean you're talking about the worry that people have with electric cars and the batteries and all that.
Yeah.
You're not driving through the traffic and see little pop plumes.
No,
it's actually been made in a way. I think it's more the very cheap stuff, like the what do you call it, the scooters and the little toy things where there's no proper battery management system and where people just plug and forget, and after 3 weeks that battery goes, I've had it.
And I think if they bypass proper, like, secure models of purchasing, so when they go buy on Temu or eBay and miss like a reputable retailer that's there for quality control,
or buy a battery charger later because the other one broke that isn't even necessarily the one that originally was supposed to come with.
And it overcharges the battery.
Those kind of things. Now, I think those more cheap, crappy batteries in the cheaper GUI is kind of possibly spoiling it a little bit for the bigger product. But okay, coming back to it. So what's the interaction there? Do people, you as a Westerner, are you kind of on equal footing, or they kind of do still the kind of yes, sir, but behind your back, you might think, oh, bloody, he's not a big customer. Who cares?
No, they're great. The people are really friendly. One of the safest cities in the world to walk around in, Shanghai. Never do you feel compromised. I don't think I ever saw any graffiti or, it's
clean,
very clean. It's the only thing that there is a barrier on certain Wi-Fi networks. So, but if you've got your mobile communication, all your apps will still work. And a language barrier. That would be it. So learn Mandarin. That's our responsibility.
No, but hang on a second. I mean, English is. I mean, if you want to do tech talk in the world and go and sell your products, I would say the younger people's English would be okay. Or
yeah. It is. It's you can get by, but no, you still need your translate apps. Right. Make sure they're on your phone when you go.
Because you went on your own, you didn't have a minder that would do the translating for you, did you?
I've done that a couple of times now.
Right. But so when you get into the factory, what's it like? You know, they dust you up from top to bottom, and you get to get your little coat, and you're not allowed to shed any hair.
Yeah, and you put little socks on your shoes,
right?
To make sure that, what is it, the electrostatic.
It's basically a dust-free environment because they don't want all your stuff in the electronics, you know, all your shedded.
So they're very big on quality control. That is more so the key brands that I would have visited. I haven't seen any other brands, and there probably are, like any sort of industry, lower forms. But if you stick with your big name brands, like Jinko, Longi, I went to them the time before. Just remarkable facilities of automation, hardly any human interaction. The one time I saw human interaction was when there was a quality control issue, and they were so sharp, so on the ball. But the line kept moving. So all of the modules that were detected and they looked perfectly fine. The old China might have just let them go, but today, not at all.
Well, there is a huge competition now in the module space. And as you said before, I mean, we're having a oversupply currently because they've all trying to kind of, I suppose, outdo each other and increasing production capacity to get the price point lower. But it now means that everybody together, what they're producing is actually more than is currently needed by the world, which is now left to the oversupply. How do you think that's going to get solved?
There's a lot of module manufacturers, a lot more than what we see here in Australia. So they've got their own competition then they also want to be superior in the world of module manufacturing.
But the answer that I'm looking for, and I think that I would give, is they're going to cannibalize themselves, and some of them will have to die on the way.
That's what's going to happen. There are a lot of the smaller players because they've got a huge amount that you don't even see, you might see a tier 1 list, and there's a whole bunch of names that you wouldn't even know on there.
Meaning we get about 10, 20 module brands into Australia, but you're saying in China there's probably 200 to 300.
Yeah. Right. So I think there will be ones that have to fall away.
Right. And then their 25-year product warranty?
It's gone.
Right.
It's back on the installer, though, that did it. And that's why you got to choose a good installer, Marcus.
And a good brand.
Like Perth Solar Warehouse.
All right. So you basically, what do you do about food? Are there little halls and stands on the side of the road?
Food is fantastic. What a great time to try. And do you know what you do with food is don't eat Western food. They don't do it as well as what they do their home cooking. And that's my number one rule for traveling.
Right.
Always eat the local food.
Right. But do they have little stands? When I go to Vietnam, sometimes you get to markets and the little stands on the side. Or in Shanghai, it's really proper restaurants
it's a new world over there. They're very advanced and it's very cosmopolitan.
The irony is, I think most Australians, if they've never been exposed to China for business purposes or others, I still kind of imagine it's really a developing country
Not at all.
With rickshaws going on the side of the road. And
I say, if you want a glimpse into the future, go to Shanghai. And it's a great little yearly refresher, and I encourage anyone in the solar industry to do it because you see how the world is evolving. You see what an electrification shift looks like. And you see a country working alongside what's required to have a sustainable energy future. And, I get that sentiment that it was, and they've done it in such a short period of time. They've done it within 20 years. And it's so remarkably advanced to be there and see, I guess, that evolution. Yeah.
Which kind of brings us back to something even much more fundamental, which is, let's say, I'm taking capitalism here on one side and democracy, and I'm taking communism and more streamlined planning on the other side. And because I'm kind of reasonably closely exposed to politics, 80% of the energy goes into arguing and kind of making the other side look stupid instead of actually working together to get a good solution, all right? So when you see the adversarial kind of method in our parliament, it's quite exhausting to see how much waste there's going on in terms of the bureaucracy, following this way, following that way, change of government up and down every 3 years, very short time in Australia. So maybe only 20% of what drips out at the end is productivity. While if you got Joe Blow says this is what we're going to do, and then all the other 4 guys working out in a good way how to do it, you might get 20% of argument time and 80% of productivity.
I know.
So why do we actually claim our model is better?
Potentially because it hears the voices of more people.
So it strokes more egos, does it?
I don't have the best political insight.
You're becoming very shy here. So. No, but I mean, look, I know it's probably even a revolutionary question to ask. But our productivity in Australia, it's going back.
I admire efficiency. I like it when things can move forward and a lot of people benefit from it, especially when it is for something that's required. Electrification, it's not if it's going to happen, it's about when it's going to happen because it's the best use of energy and the whole world's got to move forward on the electrification shift. Everybody...
But only if it's coming initially out of renewable.
Yeah, absolutely. True.
I mean, we can electrify everything on coal power too.
That's true. At least we're talking about it, which is a good thing, right? So, but you're right. It's the best use of energy that you can get, so you get less waste from it. So even with an internal combustion engine on a vehicle, you've got noise energy that's lost to noise and heat, and not all of your energy that's stored in chemical energy, such as petrochemical. I've lost my thought here. Okay.
No,
Do not use this.
No. But I was actually in your brain and I picked it up. What you're saying is the current more oil-based and fossil fuel-based system actually, when you look at the energy that goes in, which is going out, there's a lot that is wasted in heat and in all sorts of inefficient areas. And if you go to the electrification process, the efficiency aspects will immediately increase.
Directly converted to the wheels.
Yeah. So from that perspective, the waste energy is actually reduced, which overall means the energy footprint of activities is reduced. Was I in your head? Is that what you wanted to say?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So we do tend to forget about even the conversion process and what's required, because when you have a solar that charges your vehicle directly from the sun, then there is no conversion. Well, there is a conversion process, but you've only lost around about 2 to 3% in that. That's an inverter is around about 98% efficient when you overdrive them.
But look, what I'm finding is because, logic would tell you, if I get a solar system, let's say you have to have a house, meaning there's a certain socioeconomic group of people we're talking about. We're not talking about renters now, and there's a whole argument that solar is actually not fair to renters with the way the STCs are going and all that, but let's leave that aside. But if you've got a house with a decent roof and you're looking for a new car, there's nothing that logically would stop you to think, I'll get solar, get a battery, I'll get the EV, I then utilize my battery and solar to charge that car efficiently, which means my $2,500 in petrol cost, I can actually put it back into the ROI for my overall infrastructure building, plus I add value to my house. But then you will get all those TikTok videos why that is not a good idea, and you get the, I don't know if they're all sponsored by oil companies and all that, but even the more right-wing radio stations and all that, it's actually a bit of EV bashing time at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of people are afraid of change as well, but there's nothing to be concerned about. It's not. I think that.
Would you say that maybe the young people are the ones that are actually more likely to do it? Because I see a lot like MG and the Aura and all those, and the BYD Dolphins, those $40,000 price points. They really seem to get the more younger people saying, that's the car I can afford, and it seems to be giving me a cheaper way to run it as well.
They also see the change in, or what's required in change for a sustainable future. They're the ones that are going to be living in the world. It's easy to wipe your hands clean and go, well, we've done it this way. There's nothing wrong with it for the last 100 years, but that's fine in saying that.
When you only got 5 years left.
I didn't want to say that. But that's exactly it. There is future generations that we do have to leave this world in a better place for, and they're the ones that are coming through and seeing the better options. So it's a good time to listen to everybody and have them weigh in. It's not just
no. We're the baby boomers. We know best. Are you laughing because I'm right, or because you don't want to say anything about that?
It's a tricky topic for me. Anything that like politics or I don't know.
One thing about the industry itself, a lot of people now really finding it hard to get good staff because the panel's gone heavier. The guys who were enthusiastic in the industry started in 2006. Let's say you were 26 starting in 2006. What's that, 2006, 16, 26 time. So you add 20 years, so they're getting into their late 40s, 50s now. The panel's gone heavier. That's hard slogging work. I'm sure some people need a bit of chiro occasionally or in the solar industry. And the younger guys go, that is hard work. Hot roofs, So actually getting the install done quicker and more simpler is really what's needed to keep younger people interested in the industry. Are you having any issues with staff?
Look, in WA, there's always a level of issues with skilled staff thanks to the mines. But no, look, solar or sustainable energy in my mind has its appeals for people that want to make a difference moving forward. have an impact on the new direction of the world's energy supply.
I think you're referring me here now. The guys who were there last night at the Tesla launch, it was pretty well about the money. All right, none of them were. I love the green screen T-shirt on that day. So if you say that you're going to get more staff because they want to change the world, I think they're electricians who are looking for a decent job and a secure future, and renewables is obviously seen as that. But a lot of them, when they're actually getting into it, they realise it is hard work.
It is hard work.
And you're getting well paid too. But if you've got the mines as a competition, then they pay well too. So how do you expand your company? Train them as an apprentice and then see them walk out after year 2, or?
Well, we do. We train them as apprentices. We try to give a nice, stable environment that promotes learning and development, and also have when you're affiliated with brands such as Tesla, there's a level of esteem there that people like working with good technology, and so our staff see that they're working with basically some of the most innovative technology in the industry. For example, we're committed to being one of the first installers to ICO solar panels in Australia, and also SIG Energy as an alternative battery solution to Tesla, both who I think have their own certain appeal for different customers. But you need to be consistently evolving. And
create kind of like a fun work environment, really? Is it because that's something you've got to look to now. You know, you've got to actually, if somebody's wife is getting a baby or so, you've got to actually plan ahead. You can't just go and get looking with a cranky face when the bloke walks in and says, I need some time off to support my family, really. I think those more modern management techniques, unfortunately, you can't just worry about panels. You actually got to if you want to grow the company, you've got to worry about happy staff.
Oh, there's so many different layers, and we started off as just a team of installers, and then you bring on the likes of a salesperson, you bring on an administrator to support that, and the extra paperwork that they might bring in, fill in the gaps, and then you bring in a receptionist to assist with the
customer inquiries
and phone calls so that your salesperson isn't overburdened. And then you bring in a warehouse manager to make sure that they can procure the teams, because you've now got a couple more teams. And so you've got so many different people or that you're considering, that we have to be adaptive and offer flexible working arrangements for whether it is even installers that might have an appointment on, not a problem. Come back at another time and we can make that happen.
But that means you've got to really be very flexible as well, because the customer, if you gave them a commitment for certain things, then in some way you've got to work out that too. So I think a lot of people who move into solar don't actually realise that as they grow, the complexities are going higher and higher. There's less room for their ego. They'll actually have to become very, very flexible, because that's how you keep other people happy, by making compromises and not always just want your position, is it?
No, that's right. It is a bit of a juggling act.
I mean, you're wearing many hats, don't you? Yes. This was a really interesting journey, all the way from the Tesla Powerwall to biometrics in Shanghai, and then the installer market in Perth. It's really, I wouldn't have thought we'd get all those themes into one podcast. But look, as always, I actually, maybe next time you go to Shanghai, let me know. We might go as buddies.
That sounds great.
Yeah, you might not come back. But listen, really, very insightful. Really appreciate your knowledge of the industry. And, we both had a bit of foam in our mouth after yesterday's event, gobsmacked with, 23 advantages in that new Tesla Powerwall 3. They've really made us sit up and take notice.
I think there will be a lot of people taking notice. It's a very, very good battery.
Thanks again.
Thanks.
See you later.
Please support the channel by liking the video, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, and check out all our other videos. Want more energy answered? Visit yourenergyanswers.com for quality energy products, tools and calculators, and find your quality local installers. You're still here? I'll see you next time. Bye.